Ethan Rivers was not the kind of man who went on blind dates. In fact, he would have happily avoided them forever if it weren't for the insistence of his best friend, Jenna. She had been relentless. "Ethan, come on. Just one date. You can do this for me, can't you?" She had pleaded over the phone, her voice brimming with excitement. Ethan sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Between working long hours as a systems engineer and taking care of his 10-year-old daughter, Lila, he hardly had time for anything else. A romantic evening seemed like a luxury from another life, one he no longer had. But he owed Jenna. She had been there for him when he first became a single dad, helping him navigate diaper disasters, middle of the night, fevers, and the endless homework assignments. Lila insisted on leaving until the last minute. "Fine," he had said finally, knowing he would regret it. "One date. But only because you're my best friend," Jenna had squealed with victory. "You won't regret it, trust me. You might even—" "Don't say it," Ethan interrupted. "Don't say, meet the love of your life." Not happening. Now, standing outside a rooftop cafe in downtown Neo City, Ethan felt the same mix of nervousness and irritation that always came before social events he didn't want to attend. The city around him was alive with soft neon lights, air taxis buzzing above like silent fireflies, and holographic signs advertising everything from instant meals to interstellar vacations. Technology had changed everything in the world, everything except the fact that Ethan still hated blind dates. He glanced at his reflection in the glass door, smoothing down his collar. His brown hair was messy from rushing out of work, and his shirt had a faint coffee stain. Not exactly first date material, he thought. But he took a deep breath, straightened his back, and stepped inside. The cafe was stunning. Transparent walls gave a panoramic view of the city skyline, and tables floated slightly above the floor on magnetic levitation pads, adjusting their height automatically for comfort. Small drones zipped quietly through the air, delivering drinks with effortless precision. Ethan felt a momentary pang of awe. This wasn't a place he would ever come to on his own. It belonged to a world he barely touched. And then he saw her. Mara Vey was sitting at a corner table, her posture calm but confident. She had the kind of presence that made it impossible not to notice her. She wasn't loud, but the room seemed quieter around her, as if she carried a gentle gravity. Her dark hair was pulled into a simple bun, and her eyes, sharp, attentive, and unflinching, met Ethan's as he approached. "Ethan?" she asked, her voice warm but precise. "Yes," he replied, feeling oddly nervous despite his best attempts at casual. Hi," she smiled, a small but genuine expression that somehow put him at ease. "I'm glad you came," he nodded, awkwardly sliding into the levitating chair, which adjusted smoothly to his height. For a moment, the only sound in the air was the soft hum of hovering drones and the faint murmur of other patrons. Then Mara spoke again. "Jenna tells me you're quite good with problem solving." Ethan blinked. "I guess. I work with computers, solve technical problems all the time." Mara tilted her head slightly, a curious smile playing on her lips. "That's useful. But sometimes, it's not the technical problems that matter most." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And what problems do you mean?" "The ones that involve people," she said simply. "The unpredictable ones." He nodded slowly, realizing she wasn't just making small talk. There was something in her tone, a subtle challenge, almost that made him wonder how many layers this conversation would have before the night ended. For a few minutes, they sat quietly, letting the neon cityscape provide background noise. Ethan found himself relaxing slightly. Mara's presence was calming, yet she exuded intelligence and confidence in every gesture. Unlike many people he met in his daily life, she didn't seem impressed by his modest apartment, his worn-out shoes, or the fact that he had spent the last hour worrying about Lila's science project. Instead, she listened, genuinely interested, and asked thoughtful questions. Ethan realized he hadn't been this relaxed in months. Being a single parent had made him practical, cautious, and often a little too focused on responsibilities. But Mara's curiosity didn't judge that. It seemed to respect it, As they ordered drinks, a cappuccino for Ethan and herbal tea for Mara, a sudden flurry of activity caught his attention. One of the service drones had glitched, spinning in the air before bumping gently into a table. A nearby holographic menu flickered erratically. Patrons murmured, but Mara remained calm. "Looks like the system needs a manual touch," Ethan said automatically, standing to help. Mara watched silently as he approached the drone, examining its sensors. With a few careful adjustments, he stabilized it, and the menu corrected itself. Ethan returned to his seat, brushing imaginary dust from his hands. "You handled that well," Mara remarked. "Most people would have panicked or just complained. Guess years of parenting teach you a few things," he said with a half smile. Her eyes softened. "I can see that." They sipped their drinks, and the conversation drifted into lighter territory: favorite books, city life, and the oddities of modern technology. Yet beneath the surface, Ethan sensed something unusual. Mara wasn't just interested in polite small talk. She was observing, noting, and evaluating. There was purpose in her questions, but not the kind of purpose that made him uncomfortable. Instead, it sparked his curiosity. After a while, a soft alert sounded from Mara's wrist device. She glanced at it briefly. "Excuse me," she said, but she didn't stand. "It's just a reminder for a meeting. Nothing urgent." Ethan noticed her eyes flick toward a small emblem on her sleeve, a subtle mark he didn't recognize. He decided not to ask. Some things, he thought, could wait. Instead, he asked a question he hadn't expected to voice. "Do you ever step back from all of this?" He gestured vaguely at the cafe. The floating tables, the drones, the holographic menus. Just live without schedules, alerts, and systems. Mara considered this. "Sometimes," she said slowly, "but I think the right people can make technology work for life. Not the other way around. That's what I try to focus on." Ethan nodded, intrigued. He could sense a layer beneath her calm demeanor, a purpose, a vision, a drive. Something bigger than the ordinary life most people settled for. It was strange, he realized, how a blind date he agreed to only as a favor was turning into one of the most fascinating conversations he had had in years. The evening wore on, the neon lights outside deepening into richer shades of blue and purple. Ethan found himself laughing more than he had in months. Not at jokes or stories, but simply at the comfort of sharing a space with someone who seemed to understand the world differently. Mara's laughter, subtle but genuine, had a rhythm that made the cafe feel smaller, more intimate, and strangely protective against the bustling city outside. And then, as they talked, Ethan noticed something he hadn't expected. A feeling of possibility. Not just romantic possibility, which he was trying hard to ignore, but the kind of possibility that made a person think, maybe my ordinary life isn't so ordinary after all. By the time the evening drew to a close, Ethan realized he had completely forgotten that he had come reluctantly, expecting nothing more than polite conversation and awkward silences. Instead, he had experienced a rare connection. The kind that made the hum of drones, the flicker of neon lights, and the distant hum of air taxis feel like part of a larger, a more fascinating story, a story he was suddenly eager to be a part of. As he stood to leave, Mara gave him a small, enigmatic smile. "Thank you for coming tonight, Ethan. I think we both learned something unusual." Ethan returned the smile, still feeling the strange energy of the evening lingering around him. "Yeah," he said. "Something unusual." Indeed. He stepped out onto the balcony, feeling the cool night air brush against his face. The city below sparkled like a constellation brought to life. For the first time in a long time, Ethan didn't feel like he was just surviving day to day. He felt ready. Ready for the unexpected, ready for challenges, and maybe, just maybe, ready for the possibilities that came with meeting someone like Mara Vey. As he walked back toward the elevator, he made a mental note. Life, even the small, ordinary parts of it, could surprise a person. And tonight, it had surprised him in a way he would not forget. The next morning, Ethan woke, with the faint glow of sunlight spilling into his modest apartment. Lila was still asleep, her small chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. The memory of last night's date kept him lingering by the window longer than usual. He replayed the moments over and over, the way Mara had watched him handle the glitching service drone. Her calm confidence, and the easy rhythm of their conversation. He had expected a dull evening, a polite dinner, and a quick escape. Instead, he had met someone extraordinary. And yet, he had no idea who she really was. As he sipped his coffee, he scrolled through his messages. Most were the usual work notifications, or Lila's school reminders. Then, a single, unexpected ping appeared on his screen, a simple message from an unknown number. "Good morning, Ethan. I hope last night was as interesting for you as it was for me. Would you like to continue our conversation?" Ethan blinked. His first instinct was to ignore it, to chalk it up to a strange prank. But something about the tone, calm, yet confident, made him hesitate. He typed a cautious reply. "It was unexpected, but yes, I'd like that." Within seconds, the response came. "Excellent. I'll pick you up at 7 tonight. Dress comfortably." Ethan stared at the screen, confused. Who exactly was Mara Vey? She hadn't shared much about herself, only that she worked in technology. And yet, the simplicity of her message suggested a confidence and access far beyond the casual office worker she seemed to be. He shook his head, trying not to overthink. By 7 that evening, Ethan found himself standing outside the same rooftop cafe. The city had shifted into a deeper shade of twilight, neon reflections rippling across the glass walls. To his surprise, Mara was already there, standing near the entrance, her presence somehow more commanding than the night before. "Ethan," she said warmly, but there was an edge of purpose in her tone. "I hope you're ready. Tonight will be different." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" Mara smiled faintly. "You'll see." He followed her inside. This time, the cafe felt almost alive in a new way. The drones moved with more precision, but there was an undercurrent of unpredictability. Holographic menus flickered in subtle patterns, and one table even floated slightly off balance before settling back in place. Ethan felt a familiar thrill, a hint of challenge he had learned to embrace from years of parenting and problem-solving. Mara led him to a small corner table, isolated from other patrons. She gestured for him to sit. "Tonight, I want to show you something," she said, her voice low but steady. "Something most people never see." Before he could ask, she tapped a small device on the table. Instantly, the cafe dimmed slightly, and a holographic projection appeared in the air. Ethan blinked. It was a complex network of lights, shapes, and moving symbols, an interactive simulation. "What is this?" he asked, leaning forward. Mara's eyes gleamed. "It's a human AI interface. We use it to test problem-solving in real-time scenarios. Tonight, I want to see how you think, not like a machine, but like a person. Will you play along?" Ethan hesitated. This was far beyond anything he had expected from a blind date. He had imagined awkward small talk, maybe a walk along the city streets, but not interactive AI simulations. Yet, there was something thrilling about it. "Sure," he said finally, sitting upright. "Let's do it." The hologram shifted. A small virtual city appeared, bustling with miniature drones and vehicles. One by one, tiny problems began to emerge. A delivery drone stuck in a loop, a holographic billboard flickering and distracting other virtual pedestrians, and even simulated emergencies like a malfunctioning bridge. Mara observed silently, her eyes sharp. "Remember, the goal is not to fix everything instantly. It's to understand priorities, adapt, and find solutions that a machine might miss." Ethan chuckled. "Sounds like every day with Lila." Mara's lips curved into a small smile. "Exactly. Sometimes human intuition surpasses even the most advanced algorithms." Ethan dove into the simulation, quickly analyzing the problems. He directed virtual drones to safe zones, stabilized the flickering billboards, and even rerouted traffic patterns in the virtual city. Mara watched carefully, occasionally pointing out details he had missed. "You noticed the drone's trajectory before it collided," she said. "And your rerouting of traffic minimized virtual congestion." "Not bad. Thanks," he said, slightly out of breath. "I guess it's like playing chess with a city," she nodded. "A city, a team, a project, these are all systems. The difference is, human intuition sees patterns, machines cannot. That's why I asked you here tonight." Ethan frowned. "I don't understand. Why me?" Mara leaned back, studying him. "You handled the cafe disruptions last night calmly. You think clearly under pressure. You anticipate needs without being prompted. These are rare qualities." Ethan laughed softly. "You mean I'm good at keeping a drone from spinning out of control?" She shook her head. "You're good at problem-solving, leadership, and improvisation. These are human qualities that no algorithm can replace. That's why I want you involved in a project I'm leading." He blinked. "A project? Like work? Mara's eyes sparkled. "Yes. But not ordinary work. Something bigger. Interplanetary exploration. Advanced AI integration. Human-led innovation. It requires people who can think beyond the instructions given to them." Ethan leaned back, stunned. A blind date had turned into a professional revelation. He never expected this when he agreed to help Jenna. Before he could respond, another challenge appeared in the holographic city, a simulated storm. Tiny drones struggled against virtual wind currents, and power lines in the simulation flickered. Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. He quickly assessed the situation, prioritizing the drones carrying critical supplies and rerouting others to safe zones. Mara watched silently, then said, "Notice how you instinctively prioritized tasks without thinking about scoring or recognition. That's human intuition. Machines would have processed tasks blindly, equally, without context." Ethan smiled faintly, feeling the familiar satisfaction of problem-solving succeed. "It's kind of like life, isn't it? You deal with what matters most first. Then everything else." "Exactly," Mara said. "Life experience trains humans to make decisions that no AI can fully replicate. That's why I reached out to you. I need people who can apply their human insight in critical situations." The simulation ended with a small congratulatory display, and the cafe lights returned to normal. Ethan leaned back in his chair, catching his breath. He had been through simulations that challenged both intellect and instinct, and yet he felt exhilarated. Mara studied him, her gaze both assessing and approving. "You handled that well. Better than I expected." Ethan shrugged, trying to mask his pride. "I guess parenting teaches you to handle chaos." She smiled. "And that's exactly why you're suitable for what I have in mind." For the first time, Ethan realized the truth behind the mystery of Mara Vey. She wasn't just a woman on a blind date. She was someone with vision, power, and purpose. Yet, instead of intimidating him, her presence inspired him. He felt the rare mix of challenge and trust, the kind that brought out the best in a person. As the evening ended, Mara stood and tapped her wrist device. A soft holographic display appeared. A map showing distant planets, orbital stations, and advanced research facilities. Ethan's eyes widened. "This is what I work on," she said. "Projects that will shape the future. And I want you to bring your human insight to them. You have experience, adaptability, and patience that technology alone cannot match." Ethan felt a mix of awe and disbelief. His life had been ordinary, juggling work, parenting, and small everyday challenges. But here, in this sleek, neon-lit cafe, he realized that his ordinary life had prepared him for something extraordinary. Mara's gaze met his. "Think about it. Not a decision to make tonight. But know that opportunities like this don't come often. And when they do, they require someone willing to step up. To that comes a des." He nodded slowly, processing the enormity of the offer. His mind raced with possibilities, doubts, and excitement. For the first time in years, he felt like he was standing on the edge of something huge, a chance to make a difference beyond his immediate world, while still being true to the values he had cultivated as a single dad. As Ethan left the cafe and stepped into the cool night air, the city seemed to shimmer with new potential. He realized that life had a way of surprising people, often when they least expected it, and for the first time, he felt ready to embrace the unexpected, confident that his human ingenuity, patience, and care could make a difference in ways no algorithm could predict. The following week, Ethan found himself standing in front of a sleek, glass and metal building unlike anything he had ever seen. It gleamed under the early morning sun, tall and imposing, yet its design seemed to hum with quiet intelligence. Mara had sent him a personal invitation to visit Vaytech, her company's headquarters, and for the first time, he realized how extraordinary this opportunity truly was. He adjusted his jacket nervously. Despite his confidence in everyday life, stepping into the world of high-tech innovation made him feel like a small fish in an ocean of giants. He pushed the thought aside and walked toward the entrance. Inside, the building felt alive. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing rotating models of spacecraft, robotic drones, and city grids. The walls themselves seemed to shift, subtly changing color to match the lighting outside. Ethan blinked, awestruck. A voice came from the lobby. "Welcome, Ethan Rivers. Mara Vey is expecting you." A small drone hovered down. Projecting an arrow to guide him, he followed it through winding corridors, and finally arrived at a large, open workspace. Mara was already there, standing near a holographic display. She looked as composed and commanding as ever. "Good morning, Ethan. I'm glad you came," she said. "Good morning," he replied, trying to mask his awe. "This place is incredible." Mara smiled faintly. "It's a hub for human-AI collaboration. But the real power is not in the machines, it's in how humans use them." She gestured for him to follow her to a workstation. On the surface, floated a holographic model of a small research station on Luna Prime, one of the outer planets they were planning to explore. Tiny drones hovered around it in simulated orbit. "Here's the challenge," Mara explained. "We are preparing for a mission on Luna Prime. Conditions are harsh. Dust storms, low gravity, and unpredictable terrain. The AI can handle routine tasks, but humans are essential for critical decision-making." Ethan leaned in, studying the display. The simulation was intricate. Supply pods, energy grids, drone fleets, and communication relays all interconnected. "So, what exactly do I do?" he asked. "You'll help manage operations during a simulated crisis," Mara said. "Think of it as a real mission scenario. Your goal is to maintain station stability, protect resources, and ensure crew safety. Machines can assist, but only humans can make judgment calls when things go wrong." Ethan took a deep breath. He felt a familiar thrill. This was different from the cafe simulations: bigger stakes, more responsibility, and a real chance to prove his skills. "All right," he said. "Let's do it." Mara tapped her device. Immediately, the holographic station flickered. A storm swept across the model, knocking supply pods off their platforms. One of the energy grids began fluctuating, and several drones spun out of control. Ethan assessed the situation quickly. He prioritized the critical energy grids first, redirecting power from non-essential systems. He ordered drones to retrieve displaced supply pods and created temporary safe zones for them. Mara watched silently, noting his decisions. "Most people would panic when multiple systems fail at once," she said. "But you prioritize effectively and think 2 steps ahead." Ethan smiled faintly, his hands moving confidently. "Years of handling emergencies at home," he said. "You learn to stay calm, analyze, and act." The storm worsened. Communication lines in the simulation began glitching, and the supply pods risked colliding mid-air. Ethan noticed a pattern. The AI was responding to each problem equally. treating all tasks with the same priority. But humans could evaluate context. He quickly rerouted drones based on urgency, saving the most critical resources first. Mara leaned forward. That's exactly what I mean. Machines calculate. Humans anticipate. You are using judgment, intuition, and adaptability. That's invaluable. The crisis escalated further. A small group of supply drones was trapped in a simulated dust whirlpool. Ethan considered the options. Directing the AI to rescue them risked overloading the system. Instead, he manually adjusted drone trajectories, carefully timing each move to avoid collisions. Slowly, he guided them out of danger. Mara's eyes shone with approval. You're thinking like a strategist, not reacting, but planning. Ethan's chest swelled with a quiet pride. He realized that the qualities Mara praised, adaptability, patience, intuition, were the same ones he used every day as a single dad. Managing schedules, solving problems on the fly, and keeping Lila safe had taught him skills no algorithm could replicate. After several intense minutes, the storm simulation ended. The holographic station stabilized. Supply pods returned to their positions, and the drones hovered steadily. Ethan exhaled, feeling the rush of accomplishment. Mara clapped her hands lightly. Well done. You've passed your first real assessment. Ethan laughed, shaking his head. Assessment? I thought we were just exploring a simulation. It's more than that, Mara said. It's about recognizing talent when it appears in unexpected forms. You have qualities that are rare, even among trained professionals: human judgment, empathy, foresight. These are what I value most in this project. Ethan leaned back, absorbing her words. He had always thought of his life as ordinary work, parenting, small daily challenges. But here, in this high-tech world, he realized those ordinary experiences had honed skills far beyond the ordinary. Mara gestured to another display, showing a new scenario: a malfunction in the station's life support system. Ethan quickly studied the data. Oxygen levels fluctuated, temperature controls faltered, and communication with a remote drone fleet was unstable. Machines can stabilize systems, Mara said. But humans are needed for judgment under pressure. Ethan nodded. He guided the AI to stabilize secondary systems while he focused on critical areas. He coordinated drones to repair temperature units manually, recalibrated sensors, and rerouted backup power. Each decision was deliberate, combining intuition with logic. Mara observed silently, clearly impressed. You handle stress well. You consider outcomes before acting, and you maintain a calm presence. That's why humans are essential, even in a world dominated by technology. Ethan felt a strange sense of fulfillment. For years, he had worried that being a single parent limited his opportunities. But here, he realized that his life experience gave him strengths no one else could replicate. His patience, resourcefulness, and quick thinking skills honed by real-world challenges were now assets in a futuristic setting he had never imagined. After several more scenarios, the simulation ended. Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead, exhilarated. I didn't think I'd be capable of this, he admitted. Mara shook her head. You are. Sometimes people underestimate their own abilities until they are tested. You have proven that human intuition and judgment are irreplaceable, even with advanced AI at our disposal. Ethan smiled, feeling a newfound confidence. It's kind of like parenting, he said. You handle chaos, make decisions fast, and adapt to every situation. You can't predict everything, but you do your best. Mara's eyes softened. Exactly, and that's what I'm looking for. People who bring humanity to technology, who can think creatively, solve problems efficiently, and care for outcomes beyond numbers and metrics. Ethan realized she wasn't just praising him, she was inviting him to join a mission where human skills mattered most. His ordinary life had prepared him for extraordinary challenges, and now he had the chance to prove it on a larger stage. As they walked through the headquarters, Mara showed him more of the project: advanced AI learning modules, experimental drone fleets, and simulations for interplanetary colonization. Ethan felt his excitement growing. Each display, each challenge, seemed to reaffirm what he had always known: humans had unique strengths that technology could never fully replicate. By the time the day ended, Ethan's mind was buzzing. Mara had given him not just an opportunity, but a challenge. To step into a world where his skills mattered, where his decisions could influence real outcomes, and where his human ingenuity was invaluable. As he left Vatek, he looked up at the evening sky, filled with distant stars twinkling faintly above the city. For the first time, he felt a sense of purpose that stretched beyond his apartment, beyond his daily routine, and beyond the familiar streets of his city. The world was vast, complex, and unpredictable, and for the first time, Ethan felt ready to meet it head-on. He smiled, thinking of Mara's words. His life as a single dad, filled with ordinary challenges, had prepared him for extraordinary opportunities. And now, the unexpected was no longer frightening. It was a chance to prove that human intelligence, creativity, and heart could shine brighter than any algorithm or machine. The day of the first mission arrived, and Ethan could feel his heart pounding as he stepped onto the launch platform. Vatek's interplanetary project was not a simulation this time. It was a controlled field test on a remote orbital station orbiting the outer planet Luna Prime. The station wasn't fully inhabited yet, but the mission's stakes were real. Testing human-AI cooperation in a dynamic environment before sending actual crews to the planet's surface. Ethan adjusted the sleeves of his jumpsuit, a mix of excitement and nervousness filling him. He had spent the past week learning the station's systems, the AI interfaces, and the drone fleets. Mara had been a patient mentor, guiding him through technical briefings, emergency protocols, and situational simulations. But nothing could fully prepare him for being physically present at the station, surrounded by technology that felt alive in every corner. "Remember," Mara said as they approached the central hub, "today isn't about speed. It's about judgment, adaptability, and human intuition. You'll face problems no AI can predict. Trust yourself, Ethan." He nodded. "I'll do my best." The central hub of the station was a marvel of engineering. Floating walkways connected different modules, and drones moved with quiet efficiency, delivering supplies and performing maintenance tasks. Holographic interfaces displayed station status, power grids, and weather patterns on Luna Prime. Ethan felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. This was no longer a simulation. Every decision mattered. Mara gestured toward the main console. "We'll start with routine operations, then introduce controlled anomalies. Your task is to maintain the station's stability while responding to unexpected events. Are you ready?" Ethan took a deep breath. Ready. The first hour passed smoothly. Ethan monitored systems, coordinated drone maintenance, and handled minor technical glitches. It felt familiar in a strange way, like orchestrating a complex symphony, with each instrument performing perfectly only when guided carefully. He realized that the skills he had honed as a parent, patience, observation, and prioritization, were invaluable here. Then, the anomalies began. A minor oxygen fluctuation triggered alarms, and a supply drone experienced navigation interference. Ethan immediately assessed the situation. He rerouted backup drones to stabilize the oxygen system while recalibrating the affected units manually. Mara observed silently, noting his every move. "Most people would panic," she said quietly. "You're analyzing, adapting, and taking initiative. That's why humans are still crucial." Ethan worked efficiently, managing the anomalies with a calm determination. It was challenging, but he found that his experience in high-pressure parenting situations had trained him well. Handling crises at home had taught him to stay composed, make decisions quickly, and anticipate potential outcomes. As the mission progressed, the anomalies became more complex. A minor power fluctuation escalated into a simulated energy grid overload. Drones were diverted, communication signals flickered, and several modules experienced virtual system failures simultaneously. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He prioritized critical systems first, coordinated drones to contain problems, and implemented manual overrides when necessary. Mara finally spoke, her tone soft but full of admiration. "Ethan, you're doing more than just managing systems. You're anticipating problems before they happen, and your decisions are minimizing risk. That's human ingenuity at work." Ethan smiled faintly, realizing that he had grown more confident with each challenge. It wasn't just about following instructions. It was about thinking creatively, using intuition, and trusting his judgment. For the first time, he felt like his life experience had prepared him for something extraordinary. During a brief lull in the anomalies, Mara gestured toward the observation window. The outer planet's surface stretched below, barren and magnificent, with dust storms sweeping across its rocky plains. "Look at it," she said softly. "We're standing on the edge of something incredible. And we need humans like you to make it work." Ethan followed her gaze. He felt a sense of purpose swell within him. The thought of contributing to exploration, to human achievement, to something beyond himself, made his heart race. It was exhilarating and humbling at the same time. The next anomaly tested him even further. A small fire simulation ignited in one of the station's storage modules. Smoke spread quickly, triggering the emergency ventilation system. Ethan analyzed the situation and realized that relying on the AI alone would take too long. He manually directed drones to contain the fire while opening vents to redirect smoke away from sensitive equipment. Mara watched silently, her expression revealing approval. "You didn't wait for the AI to solve it. You acted. That's what humans bring to the table: initiative, judgment, and courage." Ethan felt a quiet pride. Each challenge reinforced the truth Mara had been trying to show him. Human intuition and empathy were essential, even in a world dominated by technology. He realized that his ordinary life, full of small crises and constant problem-solving, had been preparing him for extraordinary moments like this. As the simulation wound down, Ethan and Mara sat in the central hub, reviewing the data. Ethan's actions had successfully stabilized all systems, prevented simulated damage, and maintained crew safety. The AI had performed its functions perfectly, but it was his decisions, judgment, and adaptability that had prevented the anomalies from escalating into disasters. Mara leaned back, smiling. "Ethan, today you proved something important. Machines can calculate, analyze, and execute tasks efficiently, but humans bring understanding, creativity, and foresight. That's why we exist, side by side." Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of fulfillment he hadn't experienced in years. "I never thought my life as a single dad would prepare me for this, but it really did. Every challenge, every problem, every late night figuring things out, it all led here." Mara's eyes softened. "That's the essence of human strength. Life teaches us skills that no training module or algorithm can replicate, and people like you remind us that humans are irreplaceable." For the first time, Ethan realized that this project wasn't just about technology or exploration, it was about human potential. He felt a deep connection to the work, and to Mara, who had recognized his unique abilities when he hadn't even considered them extraordinary. As they walked through the station's corridors, Mara asked, "How does it feel, seeing your abilities applied on this scale?" Ethan paused, considering. "It's overwhelming, but also amazing. I've always handled problems one step at a time, usually for Lila or at work. But this feels like it matters on a bigger level. Like the skills I never valued in myself are actually powerful." Mara smiled, her expression warm. "Exactly. That's why I asked you to join me. You're not just participating, you're essential." They stopped at a large observation deck overlooking the station's docking bay. Ethan watched as drones moved with precise coordination, ships rotated in silent orbit, and the vast expanse of space stretched beyond the station. The stars twinkled like distant beacons, reminding him of the endless possibilities. "I never imagined I'd be here," Ethan admitted quietly. "I always thought my life was ordinary. Just me, Lila, work, school, day-to-day survival. But now I see that those ordinary experiences, they matter. They prepared me for moments like this. Mara nodded, her eyes reflecting the faint starlight. Human experience, in all its messiness and unpredictability, is invaluable. You bring perspective, judgment, and care that machines cannot replicate. That's the essence of HFY. Humans. F. Yeah, not just for strength, but for creativity, empathy, and ingenuity. Ethan smiled, feeling a swell of pride. He realized that being a single dad, solving small crises, and facing daily challenges had built a foundation stronger than he had ever imagined. And now, he had the chance to apply those skills in ways that could truly impact the future. As the day ended, Mara gave him a small nod. Rest well tonight, Ethan. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, and I have no doubt you'll meet them head-on. Ethan left the station, stepping into the quiet night. The city below seemed different, somehow smaller, less intimidating, yet full of potential. He felt a sense of purpose he had never experienced before. His ordinary life had prepared him for extraordinary moments, and now he was ready to embrace them fully. Looking up at the stars, he thought of Lila and smiled. He couldn't wait to tell her about the things he was learning, the challenges he was facing, and the incredible world that awaited. And for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt not just capable, but unstoppable. Ethan woke to the soft hum of the orbital station. Today's test mission promised the most complex challenges yet. Mara had been clear. This was no ordinary exercise. The simulation would push human-AI collaboration to its limits, and Ethan's decisions could determine whether the mission succeeded or failed. He adjusted his jumpsuit and ran a mental checklist. Systems check. Complete. Drone calibration. Complete. Personal readiness. Complete. He took a deep breath. There was no turning back now. As he walked to the command hub, Mara greeted him with a calm but firm tone. Ethan, today will require everything you've learned so far. Your intuition, judgment, patience, and creativity. Are you ready? I am, he replied, though a thrill of nervous excitement ran through him. He could feel the weight of responsibility settle in, but also the anticipation of rising to the challenge. The mission began. A simulated meteor shower struck the station, triggering multiple alarms. Drones spun in unpredictable patterns, solar panels lost alignment, and energy surges threatened to overload the station's systems. Ethan immediately assessed the situation. He prioritized the most critical systems: oxygen supply, structural integrity, and communication networks. He issued precise commands to the drones, redirecting them to stabilize the solar panels while manually recalibrating power circuits. Mara observed silently, her eyes following his every move. Notice how you're scanning for patterns, predicting outcomes, and adapting before the AI responds? That's exactly why humans are irreplaceable. The storm worsened. Debris damaged a supply module, and a critical drone fleet was cut off from its navigation system. Ethan's mind raced. He had seconds to act. Drawing from experience, he calculated the fastest route to protect the drones while simultaneously repairing the communication link. One by one, the drones responded, following his commands with precision. He manually adjusted their flight paths to avoid collisions with incoming debris. The holographic projection of the station shook as if it were alive. But Ethan stayed calm, trusting his intuition. After several tense minutes, the worst of the meteor shower passed. Ethan exhaled, but he knew the mission wasn't over. Mara tapped her wrist device, initiating the next anomaly. A simulated internal system failure. Energy grids fluctuated, oxygen regulators malfunctioned, and life support modules began to overheat. Ethan's hands moved swiftly over the interface. He delegated tasks to the AI but also implemented manual solutions where machines alone would fail. He coordinated drones to repair overheating modules, rerouted power to stabilize critical systems, and predicted secondary failures before they could escalate. Mara finally spoke, her voice filled with admiration. Ethan, You're not just reacting. You're anticipating, adapting, and problem-solving in ways no machine can match. This is the essence of human ingenuity. Ethan smiled faintly, remembering Mara's words from their first encounter. Human intuition surpasses algorithms. Now, in this high-stakes simulation, he truly understood what she meant. His years as a single parent managing crises, making split-second decisions, and thinking creatively under pressure had prepared him for this moment. As the anomalies continued, a new challenge appeared. A simulated environmental hazard, a sudden release of toxic gas in one section of the station threatened the crew modules. The AI issued warnings and calculated evacuation routes, but Ethan realized that following the algorithm blindly would delay response. He quickly analyzed the station layout, rerouting drones to seal off gas leaks while opening alternate ventilation paths to protect human-occupied modules. He guided simulated crew members to safe zones, anticipating secondary hazards along the way. Mara watched in silent awe. "This is exactly why we need humans," she said softly. "Your foresight and judgment are saving lives virtually today, but this skill will be essential when we explore real planets." Ethan felt a surge of pride. This was no longer a simulation. It was a test of everything he had learned. Every challenge he faced reminded him of moments at home. Calming Lila during a storm. Solving problems when resources were limited. Improvising solutions when plans failed. Those ordinary moments had trained him for extraordinary ones. Hours passed, and one by one, Ethan overcame each anomaly. The station stabilized. The drones returned to normal operation, and all systems were brought under control. Mara turned to him, her expression a mixture of pride and respect. "You did it, Ethan," she said. "You've proven that humans bring something unique to this project. Machines are precise, but they cannot replace intuition, creativity, and empathy. You've demonstrated all three." Ethan allowed himself a small, relieved smile. He had never felt more accomplished. His ordinary life, long nights of work, juggling responsibilities, and raising his daughter alone, had prepared him for a moment like this. He realized that his experiences, once taken for granted, were extraordinary in their own way. Mara gestured toward the observation deck. "Look outside," she said. The planet's surface stretched below, bathed in sunlight reflected off its rocky terrain. Dust storms swept across distant plains, and tiny stations dotted the horizon like miniature cities. "This is just the beginning. There's so much more to explore, and humans like you will make it possible." Ethan watched, awestruck. The vastness of space, the complexity of the station, and the potential for discovery filled him with a sense of wonder. He thought of Lila and smiled. One day, he would tell her about this world. A world where human skill, creativity, and resilience mattered more than any algorithm. Mara's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Ethan, I want to offer you a permanent role on this project. Your skills are rare, and I believe you can help shape the future of human-AI collaboration." Ethan blinked. The opportunity was more than he had ever imagined. I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Mara said with a small smile. "You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be human. That's more than enough." Ethan felt a warmth spread through him. He realized that his life, ordinary, challenging, full of small victories and lessons, had prepared him for this. He had something valuable that no machine could replicate. His intuition, patience, creativity, and empathy were his greatest strengths. "I'll do it," he said finally, his voice steady. Mara's smile widened. "I'm glad to hear that. Welcome aboard, Ethan." As they walked through the station together, Ethan felt a sense of purpose he had never known. For years, he had believed that his ordinary life was all he could offer. But now, he understood that every challenge, every late night, every problem he had solved, had prepared him for something extraordinary. Later, in a quieter moment, Mara asked, "How does it feel, stepping into this world?" Ethan thought for a moment. "It feels Like I'm finally where I'm meant to be. Like everything I've done up until now led me here. And for the first time, I feel like I can make a real difference. Mara nodded, her eyes reflecting the faint glow of the station lights. That's exactly how it should feel. Humans are capable of amazing things when given the right opportunities. As Ethan prepared to leave the station for the day, he looked back at the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly above, and the planet below reminded him of the vast possibilities ahead. He realized that life, in all its unpredictability, had a way of guiding people to where they were meant to be. And for the first time, he felt fully ready to embrace it. Walking back to his quarters, Ethan sent a quick message to Lila. Dad's on an adventure, but don't worry, he's learning new ways to make the world better. Can't wait to tell you everything. He smiled, knowing she would be proud. His ordinary life, filled with parenting, work, and small challenges, had led him to an extraordinary place. And now, he was ready to face the future, guided by the very qualities that made him human: intuition, resilience, creativity, and heart. That night, as Ethan gazed out at the stars, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He realized that being human, ordinary, imperfect, and resilient was enough to achieve extraordinary things. And with Mara by his side, he knew the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, growth, and endless possibilities. Ethan Rivers, once a reluctant participant in a blind date, had discovered that his ordinary life had prepared him for extraordinary horizons. He was ready to embrace the unknown, to lead with his heart and mind, and to prove that humans, ordinary humans, could do amazing things in a high-tech world. And as the station's lights shimmered softly around him, he thought, with a quiet smile, humans. F, asterisk, asterisk. Yeah, asterisk.